Hi, Cora Stack again. This is Dr. Cora Stack. I just wanted to say that I'm very deeply disappointed with the standard of reporting of my contribution to Kerry County Council by Journal.ie. I felt it was way below par, and as I said, I'd give it a D minus. But perhaps it was because the reporter was wasn't able to keep up with the PowerPoint speech, and he didn't have it. He didn't have anything to work with. So it was extraordinary poor reporting and very poor standard, in my opinion. And I want to correct the record here, if I may. So let us leave it like that. I would not regard that as anything near what you would expect from a top class journalist in terms of fair, balanced, accurate reporting. And this is not anything personal because I don't know the person at all, but I felt it was, but perhaps it was due to the fact that he had no prior access to my speech. I wasn't approached, so I didn't realise that perhaps others had provided the speech to him. So let me just say or synopsize what I said and maybe put it in a slightly different way, just to be clear about the message. And I felt it was very lacking in depth. His reporting was very minimalistic, and it was slightly kind of cutting, and there's no need for it, and it really didn't have any kind of depth. It completely missed the tone, the kind of the message really in a major way. So it isn't just poor reporting. It's just not being able to really see what was behind what I was saying, or report what was behind what I was saying. So let me try and do it another way. So, speech to Kerry County Council. I'm just translating it now for the benefit of viewers who might have not have access to the live stream. So this is not quite the presentation, but it's in slightly different form. But it's the essence of what I said. So I'm Dr. Cor Stack, independent candidate for President of Ireland. So we know Horda, members of the County Council. Now, he had some kind of a go at me about Irish. I mean, I had honours Irish in the Leaving Cert, and I'd ask what was his standard of Irish. I wouldn't say. We'll leave it like that. I want to begin by acknowledging the proud and historic contribution of Kerry to Irish constitutional politics and public life. So this was my first point. First and foremost, Daniel O'Connell, the liberator whose courage and vision secured Catholic emancipation and gave our people both hope and dignity. He stands as a giant in our history and as an enduring member of what principled leadership can achieve. Then I spoke briefly about Dick Spring of the Labour Party, a statesman of great standing. His service at home was matched by his international contribution, strengthening Ireland's reputation as a principled and fair-minded nation. His leadership in politics and diplomacy left a lasting legacy for Ireland. Then there was Mr. Martin Ferris of Sinn Féin, also deserves deep recognition, not only for his commitment to his community, but also for his contribution to peace in Northern Ireland. His efforts, alongside many others, helped build the dialogue and understanding that were vital to peace. And today we are fortunate to have in Kerry Minister Norma Foley, whose dedication to education was remarkable. She has served tirelessly as a teacher in Tralee, as a public representative, and now as a minister, currently as Minister for Children, shaping policy with the same compassion and commitment that defined her classroom teaching. Her her service is an inspiration to many. She works extraordinarily hard and is very grounded and normal in reality. And if you meet her, she's a very, very ordinary, decent, nice person. So I also want to acknowledge Minister Jimmy Deehan, who served Kerry in Ireland, as we know, Kerry on the football field for many years with distinction as both a minister and a representative, bringing honour to his county and to public life. And finally, I went on to thank sincerely Super Junior Minister Jackie Healy-Rae, who long before this campaign began gave me generous, practical and thoughtful advice about the nomination process. That guidance, given freely and in good faith, reflects the spirit of fairness that strengthens our democracy. While I speak directly to you, I addressed Kerry County Council because I wanted to share my vision fully and fairly. In my recent presentation, the coverage by the Journal.ie was, I believe, poor and incomplete. Perhaps this was because I only had 5 minutes to speak, or because the journalist did not have access to the full PowerPoint version of my speech. But what matters is the key themes I spoke about: the need for a president to be a unifying figure, the importance of rebuilding community and belonging, and my tributes following conversations with Monona Heron and fantastic women in the chamber in Kerry County Council to the legacies of Presidents Mary Robinson and Mary McAleese were not reported at all. So today, now, I want to ensure my full vision is heard without omission. A president of unity and belonging. Ireland needs a president who can unite, a president who's a quiet power and a strong presence and a moral compass for the nation. Completely omitted. We know the challenges we face. Families are struggling with the cost of living, housing insecurity is the national trauma. Rural Ireland too often feels neglected. The hard-working squeezed middle feels invisible. Our social fabric is under strain. Small businesses and post offices close their doors. Isolation grows. Frontline workers, teachers, nurses, Gardaí, carers, public servants are exhausted and under-resourced. Many cannot even afford to live in the communities they serve. In such time, the presidency must remind us of our shared dignity, our resilience, and our strength as communities. This is a point I made that was overlooked. A republic that cherishes service. A true republic must cherish those who serve. Our teachers and lecturers shape the future. Our nurses, doctors, carers, and Gardaí safeguard our present. Yet too many face exhaustion, financial strain, and lack of recognition. A just society does not merely thank them, it ensures their dignity, respect, and fair reward. This wasn't mentioned, the whole idea of a commitment to a just society. Justice and dignity. Justice begins with dignity. Secure housing, quality healthcare, and fair work are not just privileges, they are rights. Carers and people with disabilities deserve recognition and support, not neglect. And on the global stage, Ireland must always be a voice for peace, for fairness, and for humanitarianism and humanitarian aid, not reported. In particular, the last point on the global stage. Celebrating the full story of Ireland, our republic must reflect and celebrate the full richness of who we are. Our artists, scientists, and innovators enrich our story. Our Irish language, culture, and the Gaeltacht communities must be cherished. Our diversity is a strength, but only when matched with genuine inclusion, not mentioned. We must also safeguard the Good Friday Agreement, not as history alone, but as the living commitment to reconciliation, dialogue, and peace for future generations, not mentioned. Leadership and legacy. Leadership is not about applause, it is about courage, compassion, and consistency, not mentioned. It is about speaking truth, standing firm on values, and quietly changing lives. The legacy of leadership is not measured in titles or headlines, but in the lives uplifted and the community strengthened. My own path of service. I have been privileged to serve as an elected representative, indeed as the only female elected representative serving 2 terms. I served for almost 10 years on the governing body of my now university. That role carried responsibilities not just for financial and strategic oversight, but for academic affairs, student welfare, and staff welfare. I championed fairness, inclusion, and accountability. I ensured that the voices of both students and staff were heard. I worked to balance innovation with integrity and ambition with accountability and responsibility. That experience has shaped me deeply. It taught me how to support and challenge, and how to defend values, and to act as a custodian of trust for a whole community. Policy vision, all excluded. If elected, I will champion housing and the cost of living, secure housing as a right, tackling affordability, addressing homelessness, again within the limit of my powers. Education and higher education, investment in teachers, students, lifelong learning, and academic freedom, not mentioned. Healthcare and carers, dignity recognition, and proper resources for those who sustain us, not mentioned. Justice and human rights, not mentioned. Equality before the law, accountability, and rights protection. Equality and inclusion, tackling poverty, advancing disability rights, combating discrimination. Rural and community renewal. There was some mention of this. Investment in small businesses, transport and service. Again, all within the limit of what the President can do under his constitutional obligations or her. Peace and global engagement, not mentioned. Safeguarding the Good Friday Agreement, protecting neutrality and strengthening Ireland's role as the peace builder, not mentioned. Peace building at home and abroad. The Good Friday Agreement is the cornerstone of peace and reconciliation in Ireland. Ireland's neutrality, not mentioned, gives us a respected independent voice in global affairs. As President, I would champion dialogue, diplomacy and mediation. Ireland must remain a moral leader, not through power, but through service, fairness and humanity, not mentioned. Together we can rebuild trust through transparency. Together we can support students, carers, workers, small businesses. Together we can defend dignity, equality and inclusion, not mentioned. Together we can uphold peace, reconciliation and Ireland's moral voice in the world. Because I do not seek power, I seek service, not mentioned. And closing, Awini Ushla, members of Kerry County Council, I thank you most sincerely for your time and your consideration. I would be honoured to have your support, a nominator and a seconder when your council meets. But whatever the outcome, my gratitude will remain constant. And finally then, before I close, let me take a moment to congratulate the Kerry team on their wonderful success this year. In particular, I want to congratulate the Clifford brothers, David and Paudie, who made an excellent speech after grandnephews of Mrs. Rose Molyneux, a dear neighbour of mine who I had the privilege to babysit for many years. Mrs. Molyneux was a woman of warmth and kindness, and her late husband, Mr. Andrew Molyneux, was not only a fine man, but also a brilliant teacher of Latin who inspired generations of students, of which I was fortunate to be one of them. Their legacy lives on in their children and grandchildren, and Kerry is rightly proud of them. Service is the foundation of dignity. Service is the foundation of democracy. And service is the foundation of trust. Gorv Mila Mahagav, thank you very much. So that was my speech. And if you compare that with the minuscule and a very bland report and insipid almost report by Journal.ie, it's incomparable. Absolutely incomparable. I would say 100 to 10 to 15%, which is grossly unfair, very poor reporting, very poor standard of reporting, not anything in the league of what you'd expect from a serious and a world class or a real class reporter. I was incredibly disappointed, and particularly with regard to omitting any mention of our previous presidents, Mary Robinson and Mary McAleese, and there doesn't seem to be any mention of any presidents in any of the other speeches. So the past means nothing. The contributions of these great women, was just discounted. It was extraordinarily disappointing. And as I say, I have no personal, any kind of a personal gripe of any grudge with. I've never had any issue with the Journal.ie, but I do here. I think the standard of journalism was very, very poor and particularly unfair and not consistent with the spirit of the McKenna judgment, which I think newspapers and media outlets should adhere to in these times, during elections. Thank you.